Now up top, I just want to apologise for the absolute disasters that were my video uploads last week. I ended up posting the episode 5 breakdown 4 times because the first 2 had audio sync issues with them, then the third got blocked by Adult Swim, and then as I posted the 4th version, the blocking on that got lifted. I'm guessing that the company were just flagging any video using footage due to episode 7 being leaked, and I just want to say it was super frustrating for me, and I can imagine very frustrating for you. So sorry. Now episode 6 has a lot of Easter eggs in it, things you missed, and hidden details that we're going to be breaking down in this video. The entry is called Rick and Morty Thanksploitation Spectacular, and the opening is clearly based on the film National Treasure starring Nicolas Cage. That movie followed a treasure hunter who discovered a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. This episode takes place on Thanksgiving, which is of course a celebration of the founding of America, and early on it contains several landmarks and nods towards this. The opening scene starts off with its focus on the American flag, and we pull back to reveal several eagle heads, and there's also busts of what I believe are George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Andrew Jackson. Probably going to be completely wrong on them, but I actually went to Josh from the Den of Nerds, and he said he thinks it's Jackson, and that the pistols we see could be calling back to his long history of dueling. So go to him and complain if it's wrong, but if not, then shout at him for making me not sound as stupid as I normally do. Now the piece is quickly cut short when Rick launches a remote control car out of a portal, which covers the cameras and crashes into the bust. Throughout our breakdowns we have talked about how the portal gun wasn't present early on in the season at all, and this might have confirmed that the Rick we were following was actually a decoy. It seems like the last 2 episodes may have contained the real one, as it's appeared yet again, and decoys of course weren't allowed to travel into space or to other dimensions. Now the pair are there to steal the Constitution, and Morty asks if they're gonna put it back, to which Rick says it's pretty useless outside of the instructions to run a country and its secret treasure map. This is of course a callback to National Treasure and the plot of that film which we talked about before. The pair go to break into the safe, and above it we can see the official motto of the US, "In God We Trust." Again, I promise I try to do as much research as possible, and I feel very bad if all this is wrong, but yeah, the video isn't coming down no matter what. Now from here we can see some cool little details on the Constitution itself, with the words "We the People" being how it starts. This is a phrase that is right at the top of the document, and its usage has appeared in several media properties such as the song "We the People" by A Tribe Called Quest, and the Netflix show of the same name, which both have themes of equality at their core. Rick and Morty clearly have no respect for American history, and outside the safe we can see the remote control car, making it look like the soldiers have wet themselves. Morty then fires a gun off which destroys the Constitution, the head of the Lincoln Memorial, and also the Liberty Bell. The bell especially is placed to look exactly like how it does in real life, and Lincoln is also shot in the back of the head, which is how the real life figure was assassinated. Very dark humour, and researching this, I think Morty might have also shot the part of the Constitution which abolished slavery, which, Now lastly the weapon hits the Statue of Liberty to reveal that it's actually a giant robot sent in as a Trojan horse by the French. The statue was actually gifted by the French, and I love how the torch turns into a sword and the tablet a shield. In case you don't know, the term Trojan horse comes from when the Greeks used a giant horse that they presented at Troy during a war between the 2 locations. This was actually a ruse, and through it they snuck soldiers in and used it to win the war, so it's clear that France were up to something. As Rick says, you can never trust the French, but you know who you can trust? The Heavy Spoilers show hosted by me. Now before we get into the breakdown, I also just want to say thank you for checking us out, and if you're enjoying the video so far then please smash the thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe for breakdowns on Rick and Morty every week. Now after destroying the Constitution, the president is pretty annoyed, and we get a return of Keith David a lot earlier than I was expecting. The pair pretty much hate each other, and he's labelled Rick a terrorist, which as Rick says is a pretty overused term right now. The troops are sent in, and they cover the house in an anti-portal shimmer, which is a reference to Annihilation. In that film, a purple and blue sort of force field surrounded an area, and though it doesn't change those inside like that movie, it's clearly pulling from that film. Jerry says that he can't wait to see what it does to his prostate, and the character later undercooks the turkey because it fries the oven clock. Soldiers try and rush the house, and this springs a giant killer plant which is riffing on Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. Rick decides that he's going to have to get a presidential turkey pardon, which is actually a real thing. According to Google, this was started in 1963 when JFK said, "Let's keep him going" to a turkey, which began a loose tradition that I'll talk about later on. Now Rick apparently has done this a lot, and the president's onto him. Normally Rick used a turkey wrangler, but we learn that this one has been killed and that the turkeys are being transported by truck. The constant cuts between the two as they try and trump one another is hilarious, and it basically sets up the majority of the episode. The president's vice Dwayne is pretty worried about New York being invaded by the French, but the president's fixation on Rick has driven him to make that the most important thing. I was kinda hoping that this entire plot would be revealed to be all part of Rick's plan, and that he actually wanted things to go haywire so he could become allies with the president once more, but they don't end up revealing that sadly. However, that is my headcanon right now, and we watch as Marines are brought in to help. The main one of these, I think, is based on Jeremy Renner's character from The Hurt Locker, William James. William was addicted to war, and rather than staying at home with his wife and family, he kept returning to active duty. This is something that we see Coop doing, and the name Coop could be a nod to Bradley Cooper, who played Chris Kyle in American Sniper. He refers to Rick as a spiky-haired Doctor Who, and I suppose Rick is in a way, and we watch as all the soldiers have pickup trucks and a pregnant wife. They're transformed into turkeys in order to infiltrate Henderson's turkey farm, and this idea of changing a soldier or law enforcement agent has been laced throughout things such as Captain America and also Face Off. Henderson's farm is where turkeys who might get pardoned by the president live, and I love how that little sign is followed up by Tommy's Turkey Transport, which is proudly transporting turkeys who might get pardoned by the president. Rick uses robot decoys as a distraction, which calls back to episode 2, and he sneaks on board the truck. The army uses what they call a David Blaine box, which is a reference to when the magician spent 44 days in a glass box suspended next to Tower Bridge in London. Realizing that no David Blaine box would be able to hold Rick, the president figures out it's a trick and he goes in himself. We see them moved into the turkey selection pen, which says that it's been there since 1947, but after doing extensive Kevin Spoilers research, yeah, JFK was apparently the first president to do it. I couldn't find another record of one until 1989 when Ronald Reagan did it, and George W. Bush was on record as saying that he got the idea from him. Since Bush, it's been somewhat of a tradition, with every other president carrying it out, and no doubt Joe Biden will be the next to make sure that this great staple of American culture doesn't get forgotten. Don't know what I'm laughing about, yeah. My country is an absolute joke right now, but moving on. Now Rick actually panics at one point, and the president realizes that he and Morty have snuck in. He calls Coop a stump humper, which I found out today means someone that has sex with a cow. He says not to tell 10% of his friends that he called him that, and we learn that Dwayne was only kept around to appeal to the rural white population of America. Everything goes haywire, and Martinez ends up losing it because he can't handle seeing 270 degrees. This is actually a fact, and turkeys have a much wider peripheral vision than humans do. The tracking device inside the president ends up landing inside another turkey, and thus we get the rise of the turkey president. This is a man who keeps giving the Senate pay rises so that they constantly vote in favor of his decisions, and hey, we're getting pretty political. I kind of feel like when he's changed, he's crouched down to look like the Terminator, but this is also clearly done because it's the stance that he would normally take as a turkey. All the turkeys are dropped into the feeding chamber, which we learn is where FDR has been turned into a giant spider. Now I want to give a huge shout outs to Z for MP on Reddit for pointing out that this amazing Easter egg calls back to Gravity Falls. FDR was famous for saying there's nothing to fear but fear itself, and in Gravity Falls, Quentin Tremblay becomes the 8.5 president, and he says there's nothing to fear but a giant man-eating spider. This is pretty much what FDR becomes, and in the episode the saying changes up to there's nothing to fear but me. We learn that he was transformed into a half spider due to the polio vaccine experiments, and in real life Franklin suffered from this disease. It left him wheelchair bound. However, the president managed to hide his paralysis throughout the years through several clever means, and he would use people and railings to prop himself up. The president talks about Facebook and how it's pretty much ruined democracy, which, yeah, let's be honest, it has. Morty manages to kill FDR, which is the further desecration of an American icon, and yeah, this episode has no chill. Elsewhere, President Turkey has more and more turkeys turned into humans, but things are turned up to 1,000 so that they can be more than that. He sells New York to France and gives all of the money to Congress, and this is clearly a comment on how easily they can be bought. They clearly prefer his way to the real president's, and thus he has to team up with Rick and Morty to take him down. The family all have Thanksgiving together, and there's some great lines in this, like Rick saying countries are pretty much job placement programs for the people who run them. The president calls him Fight Club because of this, and they watch a Charlie Kaufman reboot of Wizard of Oz in which the Scarecrow is writing a screenplay without a brain. Kaufman is behind films such as Being John Malkovich and I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and all his films have a unique weirdness to them, which I actually like, so little fact about me there. Now during this, a report comes on in which we see that the Turkey president is creating more and more humanoids, and that he's also launching the Washington Monument into space. The key lies in the crypt of the New World, and the president recruits the soldiers from the war who are devastated that America is changing. Coop says, "What would Johnny Cash and Dale Earnhardt say?" And the former was an American country singer, whilst the latter was a NASCAR driver who sadly died in his final lap of the Daytona 500 in 2001. The bartender says he doesn't serve the president's kind there, and we learn that this is because of an unpaid bar tab left behind by Jimmy Carter. He decides not to serve him anyway because, well, he's racist, and the president delivers an inspirational speech. This is just a list of repeated words, and the Marines lock and load. At the monument, a decoy Rick and Morty arrive in an unlicensed Star Wars AT-AT, or as the millennials say, 8080. Now massive shoutouts to this reference, because every time I call it an AT-AT in a Star Wars breakdown, I get so many comments about how I've said it wrong and how I'm an idiot, but we were here first, yeah? We were here first. AT-AT kids, unite! Now this leads to all-out war, and as the monument launches, they head towards the crypt of the New World, which is located below the beheaded Lincoln Memorial. In here we see that America was originally ruled by giant turkey dinosaurs, and if Jurassic Park taught us anything, it's that dinosaurs were actually closer to birds than reptiles due to their vertebrae shape. It's even now thought that dinosaurs had feathers, so it's a nice little nod to that theory. They unleashed the original founders that wiped out the turkeys, and though they were once at war, these pilgrim and native themed creatures team up to take them down. This gives the trio time to get to the monument, but the turkey president arrives and says that turkeys are used to avoiding predators, which is why they sleep in trees in the wild. This is actually true, and yes, Morty, it turns out that turkeys do genuinely sleep in trees, which, yeah, every day's a school day. Now the turkey president says that they have to either fight him or stop the rocket, but there's enough to go around. The president fights in the reflecting pool which is next to the monument, and in space Morty continues to use the gun from the beginning to destroy more landmarks. This includes the American flag which was placed on the moon, and the monument as well. Rick manages to behead one of the turkeys by pushing it into the path of a passing satellite. I think this might be a reference to Speed, in which Keanu's character managed to defeat Dennis Hopper's in the same way. Which, yeah, spoiler alert. Also, yeah, shut the hell up, because sometimes when I spoil movies that are nearly 30 years old, right, I'll get someone saying, whoa, spoilers, mate. But I'll tell you what, yeah, shut up. You've had 28 years to watch that movie. Don't act like you were racing to see it and I stopped you. You've had your time. Just shut the hell up. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me through this video. I'm back on Earth. The president manages to stab the turkey version, and he pulls out a wishbone. He wishes to explode, and here we get several nods to Predator and Predator 2. The Predator, of course, self-destructed at the end of the movie, and Predator 2 culminated with the aliens handing over a pistol from 1715 as a reward. Here the aliens give them a musket, which they got from the Predator, and the two races bury the hatchet, much like how Rick and the president do. Morty is torn that America has a dark history, but the president says to just feel thankful and stop thinking about it. The creative team said that Thanksgiving was basically about sitting down and shutting up for one meal. I think that's very much the message we get here too. The post-credit scene goes to a supermarket, which is where we see a similar scene to the ending of The Hurt Locker, in which Coop still thinks he's a turkey. The pair now have their baby, but are still poor, even after all they gave up, because soldiers are often overlooked. It's a tragic ending which leaves him eating berries off the floor, and his wife knowing that she'll probably never get her husband back because of all that he sacrificed. This might be a nod to Western culture in general, things like PTSD and the mental illnesses that develop from war, and yes, it's very, very depressing. Now as for the episode itself, I felt it was another pretty solid one that I don't think ranks amongst the best, but it was still very fun. So far the series has had a couple of duds here and there, but overall I have quite enjoyed it, and I love how we watched Morty go from someone who's always sweating breaking stuff and apologizing to someone who doesn't care. This had some really fun landmarks and locations in it, and though I probably didn't enjoy it as much as my American cousins will have, due to not getting all of the references, I still had some fun with it. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode, and obviously I will have missed some things, so the comment section is yours to do as you please. As a thank you for leaving something, you'll be entered into a competition on the 30th of July, in which we're giving away 3 MCU box sets. All you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the episode. The winners are picked at random at the end of the month, and the ones from last month are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of Rick and Morty last week, which will be linked on screen right now. A lot of work went into it. I posted it 4 times, it was that good, and I'd massively appreciate if you went over there, as yeah, it's a fun video. Now with that out of the way, thank you for sitting through this one. I've been Paul, I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.